Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Michael Regina. I'm the author and illustrator of the all-ages horror graphic novel The Sleepover, the perfect read for the spooky season of the year. The Sleepover follows a group of kids who are trying to cheer up their best friend with a sleepover party, and they begin to suspect that the new babysitter is a witch from local legend. So if you like monsters and all that good sort of stuff, I think you'll enjoy it. This is the second video in my interview series with Trevor Henderson, the author and illustrator of the also awesome book for this time of the year, Scare Waves. In this video, in the last video, we discussed sort of his writing process, inspiration for this book, and his journey into becoming an author. And in this one, we just sort of shoot the breeze about different things on creating horror for kids, that sort of thing. And so this is more of a freewheeling part of the conversation as we just sort of talk about a bunch of different things, and hope you'll enjoy it. So I figured it would be fun to upload this as a second piece, but I hope you enjoyed the first part. If you haven't seen it, you can click a link and check that out, and thank you very much. On with the interview. I'm glad you're venturing into telling your stories because your images evoke such stories, and it's time that we hear what you got in your mind. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I really want to, eventually I want to work myself up to it a little bit. I have a YA comic story I want to eventually tell, a graphic novel idea I've had for a while, but I also really want to do short stories for adults and expound upon some of the creatures I've done in the past as well. I think it could be really cool.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to say. With all your art, where's the graphic novel? Like, I would love. I mean, it's also like, be careful what you wish for, because part of the reason these books take me so long is obviously the art is just like, so much.
The answer to that is two-part. One part is that my partner Jen, it's what she does, and I see how grueling and horrible and thankless and wretched it can be, and how much work it is. She poured her heart and soul into a graphic novel for 2 years every day, and it didn't work out quite, so it wasn't as much of a success as she was hoping for, and it was kind of devastating because of how much work it is, because she wrote it, drew it, inked it, colored it, everything. So I'm very trepidatious just for that, but I do want to eventually dip my toes into that. And the second part is that I like to think I'm pretty good at certain things in art, but that's a very different skill set in terms of telling a story through comics. It's I'm very wary of how much it's different from what I do. So I'll probably try my hand at some smaller comics and stuff first. I have an idea for a horror comic about renting apartments in Toronto that I want to tell. But yeah, eventually, maybe, hopefully.
Okay. Well, and they always tell you start small, and then you go from there. And I was the dummy who went the opposite of that. I grew up drawing comics, so I did plenty of shorter stuff. But when I decided I wanted to really give this a crack, I was like, right to that 5-part book series, and I regretted that one volume in. I was just like, I'm not equipped for this. But
it's a lot,
It is, but it's interesting though, especially within the kids market, because kids graphic novels is the fastest growing section in the bookstore. And so it's I've looked at it I would love to write more prose, but I also know, one, I don't think I'm that good at it. That may just be me. I might be better at it than I think I am, but I feel like I'm not very good at it. And but I also know there is a need for there's a need for graphic novels, and there's not a lot of people that can do it, and then there's even fewer still who want to make horror graphic novels. And so it's just slowly trying to fill that. I'm trying to fill this little niche in the marketplace. So
absolutely.
But that said, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Maybe in a couple of years I'll feel like I'm more equipped to even jump into that kind of arena a little more. The big thing I'm scared of on this one is I've decided I want to watercolor the pages as opposed to digitally color it. Have you read Harrow County, Cullen Bunn? It's such huge risk but huge reward. If you can do it, it's unparalleled, beautiful comic art. But you know,
Yeah.
it's you kind of get one go at it. I think if you ink out a whole panel or whatever, and then you the watercolor is so chaotic, and then if it doesn't work out, then you kind of botch the whole. You've lost your work.
Oh, well, I've discovered the way around it, but
Oh, really?
continue. What were you saying about But what were you saying about Harrow County? I'll get into that
Oh,
in a
just that
second.
it's I know that it's continuing. There's like there's Cullen Bunn is doing a new series. I forget what it's specifically called.
Mhm.
It's tangentially related to Harrow County, but I've read the original run, and it's incredible. And the watercolor art is gorgeous. And that talk about some great creatures in that series. It's just
Mhm.
really, really good.
Yeah.
I love whenever you see fully watercolored panels. It's always
Yeah.
great.
I never I don't think I'd ever really seen a watercolor comic like that, and it works so well with horror. And
Yep.
then seeing, like, I mean, Tyler Crook's a master at it, and he's only just getting better and better. I
Oh
actually
yeah.
own one of his pages over here, and I just hang it
Oh,
over my desk, and I'm like,
I'm jealous.
I look at it whenever I'm like, that's if my page can't sit up next to that and look okay, then I'm not doing all right.
Yeah.
So,
No,
but
Todd is amazing. It's just he's really,
yeah.
really good.
Have you checked out Lonesome Hunters yet? His new
That's the one.
series.
That's what I was thinking of. Loathsome Hunters. No, I've not yet. I really
Mhm.
got to get on it. I'm really
It's
behind on reading a lot of comics, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going back to that whole working and art thing. It's like I'm so behind on reading. I wish I
Yeah.
had more time for it.
Yeah.
But in talking about my way around it, so I
Yeah,
love
please.
inking. I love inking digitally. I
Yeah.
just the tools are, I think, better. I feel more confident,
Yeah.
especially the perspective rulers. And then I've discovered inside of Clip Studio Paint, which is like a comics program,
Yeah.
that you can like import 3D models. So you can bring like
Right.
cars and things like that, but you can also convert those 3D models into line art. So
Wow.
you basically have a finished drawing off of a 3D model. So like I
Yeah.
taught myself how to do Google SketchUp, and like I made the boat for Deepwater Creek in there. And so it is
Oh,
my
so
model,
cool.
but dude, it's a game changer. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's making me faster, but it's at least making sure like it's taking a lot of the guesswork out, because I was trying to draw this boat from memory each time,
Yeah.
or even if I had a model, I was still drawing it each time, and it was like it was constantly off. Like some aspect of it would be off. I'd forget some piece of it,
Yeah.
and so being able to model it and bringing it in and then just converting it, it was like, okay, like the base drawing is there. Now I'll go back over the top of it and
Yeah, you
clean it
can
up.
worry about the other stuff and not about like whether the boat railing is the same every single time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Or like
great.
I forgot something,
Yeah, yeah.
but I spent like 6 months trying to figure out, could I print my art onto artboard and watercolor over the top of it and then scan it back in and like layer the line art on top.
Yeah.
And it works. It works really well. And
Hell
so
yeah.
so that's what I've been doing. So I'm like, even if I screw it up, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, at least the line art is done, and
Yeah.
I don't lose that. I can just print out a new page and go back
That's
over
the
top of it.
that's such a great system. That's the best way to do it. That's great.
I'm just glad it worked.
Yeah.
The only downside I have discovered is that like the hardest part was finding a paper that held the ink well,
Yeah.
and that doesn't have a lot of lift, because as you're putting water over it, it's lifting that ink up over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved using the paper that actually Tyler Crook uses on Harrow County, but it lifts a lot, and so by the time the page is done, the ink is
Yeah.
so dull. But so I have
Well,
to use like a cheaper paper that for some reason holds it really well. But I don't know. It's
at least you found something. That's great.
Yes, and the pages look good. So I don't know. We'll see. But what I was saying along the lines is like it's terrifying me, because it feels like, one, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going too far
Yeah.
with, maybe even as you're thinking about your second book, it's like I don't know if I'm going too far into the weird with,
Hmm.
because it's the idea of like, can you make cosmic horror for children is like, I don't know, we're gonna find out. and then
Yeah.
and then also doing watercolor, it's like, man, there's a level of risk here that I haven't felt in a while, where I feel things could go wrong, and that's at one
Yeah.
point exciting, but also kind of terrifying.
I don't know. I think that if anything, kids are more open to accepting you go in that direction than if older audiences. I feel like as long as you have the strong base of your characters, and they feel natural and they feel real, the kids will buy into anything else with that anchor. I think that you can go real weird. I think you can go weirder than you're probably thinking, honestly, and kids will probably just accept it at face value, because you have that viewpoint that they can identify with through the kid characters.
That's a really good observation, and
Yeah.
I think that's true. I actually have asked my kids a few times. I've read the script to them. I'm like, "Is this too weird? Have I gone too off the rails?" And they're like, "No, it's really great." I'm like, "All right, well,
Yeah.
hopefully I did all right, I suppose." But no, I think that's true.
Yeah.
The characters are the emotional backbone that keeps everything afloat, and if they're working, you can get away with a lot of things. And I also think that if you telegraph enough of what the weird stuff is early, and I don't know if you've read Invisible Ink by Brian McDonald, but if you've not read it, like, highly recommend it. It's a great book.
No. Okay.
He has a concept that he calls your outer bounds, like your outer boundaries. And basically it's like, as long as you show people what the magic is or some version of it early, you can get away with a lot later. And it's where you don't telegraph enough that change early on, that people are like, what in the world just happened? And it completely loses them.
You got all the crime for it.
And so I've had to go back through that script and go, like, let's make sure we're touch toning on these moments, so that when the real sort of like mind bendy or mind bendy, in my mind at least anyway, comes up, that it doesn't feel too out of left field. Yeah,
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. If you just drop something super crazy out of nowhere, I can see it won't fit in the narrative, but you can get away with, you can get away with anything, I think, in a horror or fantasy or sci-fi scenario, as long as you make it feel like it fits in the world you've established and doesn't break that connection with the world. And by leaving those like marks, whatever the thing is, has left in the world early on, then absolutely, I think that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, it's saved my butt a few times. Where it's made me go, okay, gotta do that. Have to make sure go back and read it early, and make sure you're establishing those pieces.
And the inverse of that too is that, like, I don't think you have to, if you do that due diligence, then I don't think you have to go too far in fully explaining anything. I think you can be quite ambiguous with what's happening or what the threat is. And that can even add to it in a lot of ways. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff where they feel like audiences won't buy into a cosmic horror threat or some weird monster unless they fully do a lore dump or explain like where this came from, what it's doing, and all that. And I think that that's not giving audiences credit for, I don't know, going along with something crazy as long as it feels natural.
Yeah, well, I think it's like, that's a good, I almost think horror works better when it is not fully explained.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely. I don't want to ever explain anything super well.
There's a dangling thread of like, I don't know, like what's going on here. But as long as you're sort of, like you said, going linchpinning back on that character, and it's like, as long as you see their through line from beginning to end. Yeah, it is also like really important. It's helpful for me to remember that, because I do think I get really caught up as a creator in like making sure that sort of weird monstery stuff makes a ton of sense. And but it's probably more worth my time to make sure that the character stuff is making a lot of sense, and then the weird can be the weird.
I think that you want to have at least a little, you just want it to feel appropriate for the world that you've built already, I think, in terms of what the weird stuff is. But I mean, I think you can do, it's all about the execution. You could do the weirdest thing in the world, and if the characters treat it seriously and the threat is real or whatever, then the readers will buy it, and they'll go a lot further than you think. I think a cosmic horror giant fish is like beautiful and gonna be great. So I'm
really hoping it works.
Going
back to that sort of version of like, you have a thing that you like, but there's the thing that you want to create.
Yeah.
Meaning like I don't mind watching like an HP Lovecraft movie or something, but I don't know that I'd want to make HP Lovecraft
Yeah.
type stuff, you know. And the first like 6 or 7 drafts of Deepwater Creek were very sort of existential dread and really heavy. And I was just sort of thinking, I was like, man, this was not at all what I think I set out to make. And that's where I started asking myself these questions of like, well, I wanted to make a Jaws. I wanted to make a thing. Like I was like, I need a fish. I need adventure. I need it to end in an exciting way. And so, yeah, that's where a lot of things started to shift from maybe the more existential stuff. But it helped remind myself of like, I say this often when I do interviews, like for me, and I'd be interested in hearing your take on this, but like for me, writing a story is like, especially writing for kids, I'm like, what would I hope if I was a 10-year-old walking into the bookstore right now? What's the thing like I was like, I wish I could buy it and it doesn't exist, you know?
Absolutely. The whole project for Scare Waves came about because legitimately because I found out that the Scholastic Book Fairs are still a thing. And I'm like, what if I could have, and that was, obviously I got the Goosebumps, but also like the Spine Tinglers and all the knockoffs that kind of rose up around RL Stine. And I was like, what if I had a book that was one of those, just like that fit in between, Alvin Schwartz and Stephen Gamel doing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and then RL Stine doing like Fear Street and Goosebumps. That was the sweet spot on the shelf at the Scholastic Book Fair. And the entire point of doing it, I guess. So yeah, absolutely, I get that. It's like something that me at 10 or 12 or 13 would lose his mind over and be begging my mom for.
Absolutely. That is
quick notes. Sorry, I was going to say, if you haven't read for your book, if you haven't read John Langan's The Fisherman, it might be
twice.
Okay, I was going to say it feels very in line with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. What a crazy, beautiful, depressing.
It's gorgeous.
Everything
it's such a good book. It's one of the best, like, weird fiction and modern weird fiction horror fiction books I can think of. I try and recommend it everywhere. And John Langan's just incredible. Everything he does is great.
Yeah, it's I will say like that whole middle section where you're hearing like the backstory is such like a strange, like it's such a long, like strange interlude.
Yeah.
And but so when I did do my second read through, I actually kind of snipped past that because I was like, I just want to focus on the 2 guys and I just want to read their piece again. But
yeah,
it's such a bonkers book. It's it's so good. I recommend it to just about everyone too, because it's there's not a lot. It's surprising. It's like Jaws came out and scared everybody. And then it's like there's been so few things that have come out that are aquatic that seem to work as well as it did.
And I feel like, Jaws is like actually scary. And I feel like everything that comes out is going more for action horror or like stuff that isn't actually even attempting to be like scary. And people are naturally so afraid of big things you can't really see well under the water. And, the best we've gotten, and I love it, is like Deep Blue Sea or something, which is not even trying to like play with those fears at all. Like the one shot in Jaws where there's a guy in the water and you just see the open mouth of the shark like gliding under the water. It's so scary. I'd love to see more of that in different contexts and different like subgenres of horror and whatnot.
Yeah, I would like to see more of it too, because like I mean I fish regularly. It's like one of my favorite pastimes, and like Jaws. When I saw it when I was like 3, and that movie usually sends people like, I don't want to go anywhere near the beach, and I live in a coastal town. I'm like, let's go to the beach. Like I want to see the sharks. It kind of did the opposite to me. It made me like obsessed with fishing, obsessed with water, and so I wish there were more good like ocean scary things. Although I did love Underwater. I'm that camp that's like, this is a wildly underrated movie.
I liked Underwater, but as someone who does monsters a lot, I see like the trends pop up a lot, and I thought the monsters in that were such a missed opportunity for like they were kind of just big dudes underwater, and there's so much weird stuff happening underwater, and it's so colorful and odd and bioluminescent, and you had the opportunity to do that, and you just had like kind of long limbed guys under the water again. Just like we're getting out of it now, but Cloverfield, the movie came out, and that had a really cool monster in it, that looked a very specific way with these big like arms like this and a big weird head. But then you would see that exact same design in every horror and monster movie over and over again. For like A Quiet Place is just like Little Cloverfields, like over and over again through years and years. And it was like, you're missing all these opportunities to do really crazy stuff. So I feel like Underwater falls into that. But I do love Kristen Stewart doing the Ripley thing, and all the big underwater suits are so
yeah,
cool.
like the manga suits and stuff.
Yeah. So like it's definitely underrated in that way, and it's definitely worth a watch for that stuff for sure.
Yeah, and I thought like I would say like it was a movie that for me too, like it took a swing for the fences at the end.
Oh yeah,
and it really worked for me, and I was like, all right, that's cool. You know.
Yeah, no, it was good.
But
you don't see that
it's
too often.
No, and it just I wasn't expecting it at all.
Yeah.
So, like it took me by surprise. I don't know if it got other people by surprise, but for me, like my friend and I just looked at each other in the movie theater like, what we're getting this right now. But yeah, it's funny you were talking about that. Like there's trends. I saw a video that was talking about that too, where it was like looking at these monsters, like why all monsters look the same.
Yeah,
was what it was breaking down. It was talking about this sort of like repetition of sort of tropes and stuff. How do you break out of that? Because you know, drawing monsters is like why I make graphic novels. Like my editor's like, I thought, you know, we want you to be the horror guy. I'm like, look, I just want to make monsters. Like however we're gonna make monsters, I want to make monsters. And thinking through how to get good at that. You know, I regard you as like one of the best, honestly.
Jeez, thanks. That's nice.
And so how do you make sure that you're doing something interesting? And well, I don't know if that's a hard thing to like get somebody to articulate, I feel like, but I'm going to ask you to try your best.
Well, I was going to say before you even said that, when I was talking about the monsters in Cloverfield and how like you can see that repetition of certain trends in design with these long limbs, I feel like I'm just as guilty as anybody for that kind of thing. Like I do a lot of, you know, slender, emaciated, pale, long-limbed dudes under streetlights. Like I do, that's kind of my main thing I do a lot. But when I'm doing a monster, like, you know, when I'm drawing a monster, trying to create something that fits an environment, I really try and make something that would be scary to me, and B, try and do the silhouette first, and then try and do a design you could tell specifically just from the silhouette. And then kind of go from there, I guess. So I tried, especially recently, to not just do like the big skinny dudes again, even though that's kind of like a touchstone of what like gets to me in terms of effective or scary design. But it's more than anything just like a conscious effort to try and break up body shapes in different ways and use different shapes and try and be interesting in that way, I guess. That would be the answer. Yeah. But I'm really bad for it. I just, you know, a lot of skinny dudes.
I think that's fair. Like we all have our touchstones. There are certain things that I feel like I do a lot too, you know, kind of over and over again, and trying to break out of that as well. It's funny, when we were watching No One Will Save You last night, and, you know, the one that's on the roof with the
the big long.
My daughter goes, giving me Trevor Henderson vibes, like over in the middle of it. I was like, yeah, very much.
Hell yeah. No,
but yeah, it's flattering. Yeah, like I said, they're all big fans. They actually had a question they wanted me to ask you, and we'll either keep it or we'll cut it, but it's fine. It's creating these monsters is really tough. Like with the one that I came up with for Deepwater Creek, like I said, it started off with this sort of giant kaiju looking thing, and then when I started moving more towards like I want kaiju fish, like what does that look like? And trying to find shapes that were scary to me, and feelings that were scary to me. Like there's a thing that I did early on in the designs that I might have to try to come back around to, that like little spoilers here, but that giant creature was like all of its skin, like what you would think were leaves, were like all fish fins, like these kind of translucent goopy fish fins. And it was a big sort of part of original drafts of the book, but when the fish sort of moved towards more of a fish, it just sort of looks like grass or kelp growing off. So I need to mental note, go back and make sure that comes through in a creepy way. But,
I love monsters that have like natural biology that lets them blend into like man-made stuff, or like other like I love mimicry in monsters, like predatory mimicry, and also like camouflage. Like all that stuff is really interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's sort of just sitting there creeping, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, there's a thing there.
Yeah.
That feeling you get like in Hereditary when you suddenly realize
Yeah.
she's up in that corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Exactly.
Yeah, I know she's not chameleon, but that's sort of like that. And I think that's a sort of a touchstone of some of your work in general, is that idea of like a very normal thing and then something
Yeah.
very unsettling sitting just off if you're paying attention. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah. I
that's
feel
pretty
like
horrifying.
a part of why some of that photo work I've done with painting monsters in the photos has done well is because it's all like environments that are around everybody. Like most
Hmm.
people, it's not like, even, you know, the middle of nowhere wilderness. It's like, your driveway or your suburban street or a park near your house, like stuff that people have seen regularly. So it's way easier to feel like I could be out on a walk and see this crazy thing. And I just feel like it gets to people a little bit more that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that is, yeah, definitely part of what makes it unsettling is
Yeah.
that it's like right in the middle of, normal America, which is I think like that's what made guys like M. Night Shyamalan to me interesting, was sort of like he took the scary thing and put it in um like the idea of like Unbreakable is not what I would call a scary movie, but it's like, what if Superman was your
Yeah.
next door neighbor and he didn't know it? And um but yeah, that sort of every day everyone could find themselves in it,
Yeah.
be a little freaked out, really works.
Yeah.
So I
It's
don't know.
easy to watch a movie, a Dracula movie or something and not be scared, or a vampire movie because it's in a castle or gothic castle or something. But the move
Mhm.
towards like rooting horror in the everyday and the mundane has been really interesting to me. The difference
Yeah.
between like, the old dark house or like an old haunted house movie and like Poltergeist, where it's like suburbia.
Hmm.
So much scarier. It's always going to be so
Yeah.
much scarier.
Yeah. Well, it's like I think we've gotten a lot of suburban horror when it comes to like ghost movies, because obviously
Hmm.
a haunted house, but
Yeah.
the sort of trend towards like monster stories that happen in suburbia or those sort of
Yeah.
things is where I think where I may be seeing that distinguishment of like, yeah, that's interesting to me. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
super interested in the ghost story, but the monster story I am.
Oh,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. You mentioned RL Stine. Have you had a chance to meet him before?
No, I haven't. No, not at all. But I when I announced Scarewaves, he commented and said like, "Good luck with your book," which was really, really nice
Yeah.
because I still have the RL Stine Goosebumps fan club card in my
Oh,
wallet
that's
from when I was like
awesome.
9.
Yeah.
So I'm like, obviously I was a huge fan growing up with his work, and he was completely foundational. I
Hmm.
never got into Fear Street, but Goosebumps and all those subsidiary other books like Spine Tinglers and stuff, I was a huge, huge fan of, and kind of like that was
Right.
the first stepping stone into Stephen King, and then
Hmm.
all those other authors.
Yeah. He's awesome. I hope you'll get to meet him. I had a chance meeting with him
Oh yeah,
one day. I was at a book festival, and I was doing this was back in my self-published days. So this is before, everything happened with the sleepover. I
yeah.
was speaking at a school that morning, and he happened to be speaking at that school about 2 hours later.
Oh nice.
And they were like, yeah, he'll be coming here and having lunch. And I was like, excuse me. And then someone was like, do you guys mind if I just like hang out? I would like to say hello to him. And the
Yeah,
lady who was running the book festival was having lunch with him. She was going to be there. And so I was like, I have an in, I can talk to her. And so I was just like, can I please come in and just say hello? I'd love to meet him and just tell him thank you. Because same, like the
yeah,
Goosebumps was such like a foundational thing,
yeah, yeah.
and
Absolutely.
he was so kind and generously, like he's like, please sit and eat. And I just got to hang out with him for like an hour and a half and
Oh, that's
talk
awesome.
craft and just and he was so I've gotten to this thing where, especially earlier on in my career, like I wouldn't bring books with me because I would try to like share my books with people, and it always felt weirdly awkward. Like they were
Yeah,
being polite, but they didn't really care.
yeah,
And
yeah,
he was more like, "Where's your book?" And I'm like, "What's out in the car?" He's like, "I want to see it. Like, where is it?"
yeah,
And I was like, "Well, it's out." He's like, "Well, we'll see you tomorrow. Like, we'll see you tomorrow at the festival." And he stuck to it. He's like, "Oh, sweet, let me see it." And like came by and took it and sat around and looked
Oh,
at
that's
it. And it was
awesome.
Yeah, just I've found people say don't meet your heroes. I have found it to be the opposite. Like
Yeah, no.
every one of these guys I met have just been the coolest people. I'm so glad.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, it would kind of break my heart if RL Stine turned out to be like a weird jerk or something.
Yeah, that'd be rough.
It would be horrible. But yeah, that's all I've heard from people is just a sweetheart who, really loves his fans and loves the success that Goosebumps has had and really appreciates it and all that.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get the chance too, because he's a super nice guy.
I'd love to get a blurb from him at some point too for one of those books.
Yeah,
if we do another one or whatever.
I hope you can. I tried for it too, and we didn't get it on the sleepover, unfortunately, but we tried.
Dang, maybe the next one.
Yeah, but I did. I sent you a message. I did get to meet Joe Hill this past week.
Yeah, right.
That was really cool.
Nice.
I just went to his workshop. I didn't get to talk outside of that group meeting, but he was really gracious and kind as well. It was pretty cool.
I would love to meet him. He's obviously has tons of great work. But one of my favorite short horror stories of all time is by him. It's called Best New Horror. If you have not read it, it's amazing. It's probably online somewhere. I'll see if I can link it to you. But it's really good. It's one of my favorite short horror stories of all time.
That's awesome. Well, as far as interview questions work, we want to shoot the breeze or whatever. I have one. I want to make sure I ask my kids question.
Yeah, please do.
But
I'm curious.
It's a weird, kind of a funny one. But they're just like, ask him how he feels about all these YouTubers doing their own thing with it. Like there's a guy who does Trevor Henderson songs.
Yeah,
and Horror Skunks, I think, is his name. And
if
for whatever reason, they're like, I want to know, how does he feel about all these people doing their own take on your thing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's immensely flattering that I've made a character or characters that have resonated enough that people are inspired to do, in many cases, much more talented fan art and writing and all this weird ice sculptures, and there's been tons and tons of stuff. There's some really weird stuff that I'm like, all right, I don't know about this, but that's mostly weird content creators on YouTube pumping out algorithmically designed really strange, off-putting videos where the Incredible Hulk fights Spider-Man, fights Siren Head. I don't really like those. Those weird me out and make me feel weird.
Yeah.
But all the stuff you mentioned, people deciding to make up songs. There's a YouTube creator, and all he does is do audio of what he thinks every single monster I've ever done sounds like. And there's hundreds of these videos for just one-off monsters. That's all crazy. That's great. I could never, I would never not appreciate that kind of people liking the stuff enough to do that. The fan art has been amazing. It just gets weird sometimes in terms of certain videos, but overall I really like and super appreciate it. And anyone who has liked any character or drawing or a little bit of writing I've done enough to give it any more than a passing glance is super appreciated.
Yeah, that's cool. I think for my my oldest daughter, one of her she's aspiring artist herself. Yeah. And I think for her, the weird part of it to her is these people are making money off of his thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and it's the thing where obviously she's gone to cons and seen other people's versions of stuff, but I think she always thought that was merchandise that somehow these people had. But for your stuff, she's like, I know he didn't make that.
Nope.
How does he feel about all these people doing this?
I mean, it is what it is at this point. The internet is, if something catches on, it does really cease to be yours in a lot of ways. It just goes and I could spend my days just trying to make people stop making money off of my stuff. But I'm one person. I'm just a guy who's trying to pay his rent doing freelance illustration work in Toronto. Yeah. I don't have the means to do that. And honestly, for a long time, there were Siren Head plushes on Amazon. I think they still are all over the place. But you send one copyright, and then two other fake name companies pop up doing the same thing. It's almost impossible to get them to stop. Even Spirit Halloween this year has a Siren Head mask and a cartoon cat mask and a bridgeworm mask, and I haven't heard word one from them in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that it's not actually Spirit Halloween, because I've looked into this a tiny bit. Spirit Halloween got the masks from this like a smaller mask company in Mexico, and they are the ones who ripped me off without actually doing anything or paying me. Spirit Halloween probably doesn't know enough to know that it isn't just a free floating internet thing. I should still like send them an email just so they're aware. But it happens, and there's many people making a lot of money, and I have to be fine with it, because there's not really anything I can do, honestly.
That's kind of what I was trying to. Yeah, I'm with you. Like she struggles with that because she gets scared of like sharing her art online, because she's like, what if somebody steals my thing? And I'm just like, well, listen, there's no way you can control that. And if you can sort of at least prove you own the IP, you can control at least some instances of it, which is like you can prove you posted a thing about it before other people posted a thing about it. And I'll admit to you, and I'm sorry, Trevor, we have a couple of your stuffed animals. We did not know they weren't officially licensed.
Honestly, I don't have an alternative out there yet. And if kids want a Siren Head plush, I'm honored, and honestly, go for it. The $20 or whatever is not going to kill me that it went to this guy. I'm just happy you have a toy, and that the kids want a toy of something I made. That's just cool. I was going to say I would love to have official merchandise out there, and through the podcast that Mayfair Watcher Society that is inspired by my writing, there's going to be some plushes out, not Siren Head, but like some other characters. And then I've started talking to some people about some official Siren Head merchandise. So hopefully there'll be something out there that will actually like be official, and have a quality control and actually be like a good product, I guess.
Yeah. He just I was gonna say he felt bad when he realized it wasn't.
Oh no!
I was like,
don't feel bad,
know, man. He's but he loves that thing. But
tell him it's totally fine. It's all good.
All right, I'll tell him he's got your stamp of approval.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least for the moment. But it is sort of weird. It's like it's a train you can't fully stop. It's like I would go to these comic conventions and sit in the artist alley area, and you just see all these people making money off of other people's things.
Yeah.
And I've never felt right about it, so I don't do it. Like I don't want to make prints of other people's IPs and sell them as my own. It's a lot harder to make your own thing and to sell that thing and gain its following. But it's like, what do you do? It is what it is.
It's tricky because like I love fan art, and it's just it's a big gray zone. It is a gray zone.
In some regards, it only really in some ways, it just helps you because it's a sign of the popularity of your thing. Yeah.
I've known people who've, made something that blew up on the internet, and they were incredibly like on it with like lawyering up and stamping at everything. But then what you do is you're also kind of shooting yourself in the foot a little bit, because a lot of this is fan appreciation. It's fan stuff that will just grow recognition of whatever you've made, your story or whatnot, and you don't want to do that. I love fan art. I love seeing it. It just makes me really happy every time. There's nothing better. I can't wait for Scare Waves fan art. I hope people draw the characters and the monsters, and it's just the best thing. And I could never imagine a world of wanting to like litigate against that. It's only when it gets really far and people are just selling kind of like crappy knockoff stuff in your name, because then people will be like, there's a chance of them thinking it's official, and then it's like he signed off on this card. It's all it's complicated.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like it sucks, but it's like it's a good problem to have. It says something. It says something about the popularity of the thing that you made.
Exactly. You wouldn't have that problem if your character wasn't resonating and doing well with people, and people were responding to it. There wouldn't be a demand for that kind of thing to pop up in the first place.
But I'll relay that back to them. But I kind of told them, I was like, well, as one artist, I was like, I'd love to get more fan art. but it's it's like it's just the risk you take. You create things and you put it out there in the world, and you can't control it after a certain point. It's gonna
it's something you just got to make peace with, that it's like kind of not yours anymore. You're just like launching it out there, and some things might happen.
And I do think people who really appreciate you as being the one who make it will still support the things that you make. So
absolutely,
Mhm. But well, that was the last question I had to ask you along those lines.
Yeah.
Unless you want to shoot the breeze, I don't know if you have anything specifically you wanted to share or talk about that I can spin as a question for you.
Let me see. I don't know I mean. The stuff that I got going on right now is mostly Scare Waves, which comes out on October 3rd. But besides that, no. I mean, we're gearing up for the season 2 of the Made for Watcher Society, which is this podcast that is a much more talented team of writers taking the concepts and monsters and the little flash fiction that I put on Twitter and social media and expanding those into full 30-minute, fully voiced podcast episodes set in a little town called Mayfair, another spooky small town.
Right.
So I got a few going on. I got to do something that's not spooky small town based in the future, so I can diversify.
You know, when you find your lane, you find your lane.
Yeah, it's true. I want to do like space horror and like underwater horror and all kinds of stuff too. But I guess that's the other big thing is that we're working on the scripts for that. So season 2 will eventually be coming. But otherwise, no, just those two big guys, I guess.
That's cool. I haven't heard the podcast. I need to check that one out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, honestly. Just seeing like certain monsters get like a narrative to live in and get kind of expounded upon a little bit in really cool ways. There's some really good episodes there's one for the man with the upside down face, which is a character I made that's just really, really scary and cool. Yeah, I absolutely recommend it.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much for hanging out and chatting. I really did enjoy Scare Waves. I think it's going to be an awesome new addition to have in this like growing horror line for young readers, and I'm so excited to see what you got coming next. But thanks for sitting around and chatting about it. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, and this was great. Thank you. Thanks so much.